video may not be as good as the last one. So, but a little more complicated house. We'll go over on this one is going to go over a little bit more complicated house and structure. This is an existing yard. All we're doing is a little landscape over here in the long run, but how to put together a two-story house. So I usually like to work in 3-inch grids because the 1-inch just gets to be too small and too detailed. You don't really have to worry about being in 6-inch. To me, can be a little bit too big. So I found a pretty good happy medium with the 3-inch. The drawback to this particular property is I don't have a video. One of my guys took just took a couple pictures is all I have to go off of on this one here. So I have the north, south, east, west views. I also have this picture here. This is what it looks like from down below. So I'll put some of these different images here around so I can see what it looks like. It really helps with the video to really be able to see. So again, because this one has gutters, you can kind of see that the house comes in a little bit here, and that's just I think all that is there is I think it really comes all the way across straight right here. And again, it's not too particular on this one. And then this might even 45 back here is probably what this does. Something along those lines. Actually, so I always just turn off the roof right away. If this is the main inside of the house, this isn't the columns or anything, I'll leave the interior wall in there is fine. Then you can go right away if you want to build the second story. How you approach the house is usually a little bit different for each particular house. This one here, I think we could probably get away with I will actually be able to get away with doing this one, so I'm going to have to come in here and I'm just going to that's more like the roof. Really what I could do is the roof line, I don't put an interior wall on the roof. Let's go back and just I'm going to figure out just where the second story part is first. So I think all this is second story, and then the house, I think, from what I can kind of tell, comes back like this. That's all second story right there. Here's the first story roof. So with roofs, I make them 1 inch tall. I don't use this roof only very often. I don't know why. I've just gotten used to, and then set the elevation at 10 feet because that's what my structure is there. So this is a roof here too.
That's the roof on top of the house you had.
Yeah, so it's going to be 20. It's going to be 20 feet up. This is a gable in the front here. So this one will need to come a little bit further back here. I don't know if I'll be able to get this to look right or not, but we'll see. So it's already 1 inch and 20 feet up. see for and I have to play with these things a little bit here and there too, so second story, let's see here, and then we've got a little area that protrudes out. This is just a overhang is all this is.
Which I need to learn how to do.
So it's 10 feet up. It looks like here that yeah, so 10 feet up, 0. It's actually higher than, so if I'm looking at this roof line here, this is probably the normal roof height, and because it's an entryway, it's actually like 2 or 3 feet taller. So I might float this one up here at about 13 feet and then do another one.
Which is this, right?
Yeah. So that way this put the overhang right where it's supposed to be. I didn't actually go back on this one yet and shrink the house in. For this particular house, I'm not really worried about it. It's already going to look way better, and we're not even landscaping around the house. So for this one, I didn't go back in and make the roof a foot smaller like I've recommended in the past. Just take that with a grain of salt this time and just realize that that's what you should have done going into this one.
Okay.
So this here is probably all just patio cover right here. And what I would do usually would be to set this as just a, and when I get to these, so it looks like this is a great big patio cover. And it's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
I think that was the north view. So you can see here the patio cover kind of runs this way. It's really different the way this whole thing is. I'm not really worried about that. The homeowner will never see this because we're not doing anything in the backyard, but I'm going to make all of this one roof right here is the way, because and what you could do here too would be to once you get this straight line here, then you could hit L, and then that would give you a 90-degree form in here, and then a 90-degree back to the house. Yeah, and then really what I would do then would hit G and go straight over. Make that connect right at a grid point, and then you can come straight over here. And once you get lined up there, and again, this is just roof, and we're going to set this one at 10 feet tall. It looks like the garage portion of it is 2 stories, or at least a small portion of it. Here, if you want to get a little more complicated, again with the grid, you can't really get because it's a weird angle. You just kind of take this back to a point. So anyway, that here would be a 1-story tall, but it'll be floated elevation up to the 2nd story there. And then here is the garage, is the actual garage portion. It's probably something along those lines. That's 1 story tall. It doesn't have a roof, and it needs to be down on the 0 elevation. So let's take a look at what we've created so far. So one of these I've got to put So that's 10 feet, but oh, it's it. So we need to raise this one up here to 10 feet. There we go. Okay, so we have this gable here on the roof. You can see there's a gable here, but you can also see on this picture here, there's a gable on this. Is what we're going to create real quick. So once you highlight the particular roof that you're on and it's got a white triangle around it, you can hit this here.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
There we go. This one was supposed to be raised up to 13 feet. Oh, I kept this one at 13 feet on accident. So that needs to go back down to 10.
13 on that one because of the 2-foot difference.
Yeah. Gable there, and then you can come back in here.
Sink it in.
Okay, if it's not, there we go. Let's see here, and then I think this one was it does have a slight angle on here, but especially probably on the other side. It goes all the way back to the house, so we'll just have it go back like that there. That's actually probably more of like a flat roof, so you can come over here. If you know what pitches are, I'm used to working in degrees. You can easily change it from degree to pitch, and it doesn't have to be exact. I just get close. So I know that's a flatter roof than the other roof, so I'll kind of pitch that down a little bit.
200.
I know that as well. This is a steeper pitch right here, so this needs to go up to probably a 35 or a 40. I'll try 40 here, just to get it looking about right. So the other drawback too is that on the real house, as you can kind of see here in this picture, there's not a roof right here in front of it. That takes a lot more time to create. You essentially have to create a roof right here and then a roof right here to get it to where it doesn't go in front of that garage there. But because I'm not worried too much about that with this particular house, we'll just go from there.
It still looks very alike though.
Yeah, it's close enough. The homeowner's probably not even going to notice these details. If you're doing, a really high-end project, 100,000 plus, yes, you can go through and get the details of doing this. But with this one, it's a very, very small landscape, so we're just going to get that. So with this house too, it's hard to tell, but I believe it turns to siding from here over. Let me see if I can pull up another picture. You can tell if that's siding or brick. But you can see how the roof kind of comes down at an angle like that. So we need to also put in that one there, because right now our roof doesn't do that. So I'll show you how to put that roof in. Turn the grid back on. At this point, you roughly know what it is. So it looks like the roof probably goes all the way to here. Again, we want to make sure it's just one roof. It's raised up to 10 feet. Come in here. And I'm not sure if this will allow me to do this. Yep, it will. So you could also do it on this side too. So it creates that same look that's here. The only drawback is you'll see a little glitch right here. You can't get rid of that little glitch. So here's how I do this to where the roofs aren't lining up perfectly. So I'll just kind of increase the height to where it does line up perfectly.
Now, you're doing this based off pictures, which it's harder than usual, I assume, right?
This particular project?
Yeah. Well, if you had to do the house.
What do you mean by?
As in, okay, so you're looking at the house like this, or is it that you already have an idea how the house looks just by this?
Just experience more than anything.
It's kind of hard to tell that it's just how the roof looks, from these 4 pictures that you got.
Right. So I've just seen a lot of houses and I've studied them over time, so that's how I know just getting an idea. And actually, if you kind of see up in here, I don't know if you can see it through the
There's
shade or not.
yeah, there's like
It actually looks like this roof comes up slightly short of that roof line. But we're going to keep it like this for right now. If we wanted to show that detail, then we could as well. We're only going to work in the front yard today, but let me go ahead and show you how. Let's say that this wall right here was, let's just pretend that just the front of the house was stone and the rest of the house was brick, which I'm guessing that's what it is, because I've rarely seen a house, especially in this price range, that's stone all the way around it. There's probably going to be usually like this second story on this house is either brick or probably even siding. Yeah. So what you have to do is I recommend just turning off the background image, because it gets to be too much here. And you don't really need to worry about this one for right now, or this one. So let's go ahead and hide those two. So I'll come back in here and create let's just pretend that it goes back like 3 feet. That's usually about what they do. And you can make this different depths here. I could just come all the way straight across. We'll go ahead and make this 2 stories, since the house is 2 stories all the way across. And then what we have to do is come in here and pick out the actual house. Now I'm selecting on a particular layer here, but I'm looking at it, so it's 10 feet tall and 10 feet, so that's the ground floor. So this is 20 feet up. That's the roof. Oh, that's what I just created there. That's the roof line, because it's only 1 inch and it's 20 feet. That one's 10 feet, and so you can go into 3D to see which one you highlighted. So it looks like I might even have, okay. For some reason, it looks like I accidentally created a duplicate layer there. Let's see what happens if I delete this. I don't think it, oh, yep, so I want to keep that one. So make sure we bring this one down, back down to 0, yep. But now we need to make sure that we put this one back here, so that way it's not seen. So now when we're moving around and you don't see any shifting the way it was a minute ago, because there was 2 layers built on top of each other, I can come in here, the materials, and I can try to find my best to find this really rough looking limestone. So we go to stone, stacked.
Limestone
We
white.
could do, it's white right there. And let's just pretend that the rest of this house, I know it's probably not all that way, but let's just pretend the rest of it's just brick. Actually, this is stucco over here, I know that. And then this gable here will be that same stack stone. Then this here will be the white stucco. You can do concrete is okay. That works. And we just want to make sure that the roof is all gray. They don't have a very good gray in here, or black.
You have to make it yourself.
Yeah, you kind of have to make it yourself, but even then it turns out kind of brownish, which I don't like. So I just will usually, especially if I'm not too particular about the project, shingle, and I'll just do gray. So yeah, that's what they consider gray, but to me that definitely looks more brownish. And it's white trim, yeah, beige. So there we go. We got a rough idea of the house. Let's go ahead and save our project here. Let me unhide the rest of the house here. Now what we need to do is create these columns and this archway here on this particular house. So we'll go back to the house layer. Those columns there are probably about 1'3". You really can't get stone columns any smaller than that. 10 feet, 0 elevation there. And this one here's kind of right in the middle, so we can
How do you create them? You went interior wall? No.
it's just a house. It's 10
Okay,
feet.
10 feet.
Yeah, it doesn't need to have an interior wall.
And no roof.
No roof, no
Okay.
roof on this one here.
That's you create columns.
You know, if you feel like you want to, if you really want to get detailed and you want to add in this little piece of trim in here, you could. Depending on how clean you want it to look, you could do a piece right here.
Just play with the elevation on it.
Yeah, so I would take this down to a foot, and that's actually looks probably more like 9 inches or so. And then I'd raise it up to 9 feet,
9 or 10 feet.
3 inches.
You just eyeball that.
Yeah. Well,
9
you
feet,
kind
3 inches.
you get to know. So if this roof is 10 feet here elevation, and this is, if I set it up to 10 feet, it would start at the base of where that ceiling is at, to
You
where the
subtract it.
ceiling is at. So I just subtracted however tall I made that, and I went down. So it helps when you can see it in 2D mode visually, and you know where things are at. It definitely helps you from having to go into 3D as often. Roof line, I'm going to make sure that's set up to 9 inches there, and then we'll subtract. So there's that one. Now we can go ahead in here and create these columns. For this one are slightly larger. They're probably going to be about 2 feet across in the front right here. And they're going to be up. We'll set them up to around 12 feet tall. You can see they go up above a little bit on that one here. And I can't tell, but it looks like you can see right through there.
Yeah.
So
it's 4 columns.
that's not a full column all the way through. So now we need to go in here and create that little archway. The archway, and if you really want to get detailed, you could actually create this archway in 2 pieces and show this little detail here. But for now, let's just keep it simple, and we aren't going to do that. And just eyeballing, you know, the idea. And so what I do then is I come here, and then I make it so it's just tall enough to go over the other, just tall enough to go over this archway here. And I'll usually set it to be the same depth as that, so 4 feet here.
I never played with the custom shapes before, so.
Yeah. Okay, and then you'll need to do the same thing here.
Line, curves. That's what it's done.
And this one here won't need to be but 2 feet tall. And we'll kind of move it over here, so that way we'll go into 3D mode now. And then I'll hit rotate. Control Z. I always like to have my G on the world, so that way it clicks at exactly a 90-degree angle. And then here you do kind of the same thing.
Just put it in.
Yeah, and so what we want to do is get these set to the proper elevation. They were set at 9 feet 3 inches.
That's sweet.
So I might need to raise this up just a tiny bit so we see that full arch right there.
That is cool.
It's fun when you get to once you get the proper elevation set, this one's a little bit different because it's a smaller radius. It actually didn't go up as high. So I made a little mistake there. I could come in here and fill this gap in with another house, or I could bring it back to, yeah, and actually make it a little bit taller. So had I been doing, so I'll make sure too that it's set up. Once you get the height right, it's easy to come in here, and I could come in here now and fill it up there, and it actually goes right there.
Had it not been easier to just modify the shape, custom shape?
No, because you would have had to go back all the way into turning it back flat again.
Okay.
You can't modify, once you rotate it, you can't modify it.
Okay.
So all of these need to be then turned into that limestone there. And so that's very close there. This is a metal roof here too. They don't have any good black metal roofs is the only drawback. Again, that's as close as you get to black, and it just doesn't look that great. But oh, to my custom shape here, that's the wrong color. The other drawback to custom shapes is that if you notice, so it's going to put it all at the same angle, what it calls the same angle. So like over here, you'll notice there's a little detail there that gets, so you gotta at some point let some things go.
For the sake of the sanity.
There's only so much you can do, and if a customer is being that particular, then we don't really want them as a customer. So.
Oh, okay, I see what you mean. So the actual brick is not aligned with the other one, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So your joints don't line up there. That's a little tiny detail, but you know, for the most part here, I would say if we bring this one in, we came really close to recreating that house in just a few minutes.
Definitely.
Now we could go in and add the windows. It looks like they have a double set of French doors. I'm guessing it's a double set. And then 2 windows up here and this round window here. This round window, we'll be able to create the round window, but we really won't be able to create this flare around it unless I made this whole thing a custom shape, and it would just be a nightmare. So we're going to just throw in a little circle window in here. And in fact, I don't even know if they have full circle windows.
I think they have one. I think I saw it.
I so rarely use.
Can you put 2 of those together? And make
You can rotate it. It's a little bit of a pain. That's why it. So it's totally clear, and the fact that it's not
a full round.
Yeah.
Might look.
So we'll come in here and just duplicate.
Oop. Yeah, I can definitely do this all day.
So the other one is set at 0, so we need to make sure that it's set.
Rotate it.
Yeah, it won't let us rotate it. So
it won't let you rotate.
No, not certain objects. It won't let you rotate certain objects. So yeah, is what it is. So in this instance, what you could do would be to just create a custom shape if you wanted to go. It's the only way you could really create a circle. So I'd say that window is definitely no more than probably 18 inches. Sometimes if you make it too small, even if it's the right size, it just looks weird. So we'll create that
bigger one, probably.
Yeah.
Because it's got that round accent on top around it.
So and then here we could create that. Since we're doing this, we could go ahead. I could show you how to create that little window ledge around it, and then just mirror here. And usually what I'll do is I'll make this one like an inch taller. So let's go and get our materials.
I would have done it a whole different way. Just overlapping circles.
Yeah, and you could definitely do that as well too. So We'll go to Windows, tinted glass, and then
That's what you made it say. Alright, that makes sense.
yeah. So the drawback is here is that because I'm using the exact same siding, it's not going to look right. So let's maybe try brick coping and see if that will allow us to. They don't
The
really have
gray
a,
one in the top.
they don't really have
Yes.
a white, so I don't like that either. That looks weird. So let's just go to. We can see if they have other stone materials.
Doesn't look bad.
So again, I'll kind of group this together. That way it stays, and then let's.
Yeah, I learned that yesterday the hard way. Trying to move the cardinal points that you made.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it to move.
Ah, shoot.
Happened.
I'm hitting Control Z to try to go back. There we go. I don't know why it. There we go. Okay, now let's rotate this guy. Make sure G is on to get it to where you want it to go. Elevate it, and then just push it back to the house.
Right there.
Make sure it's kind of centered. You know,
That's
it's not the greatest, but it's not. It's about as good as we can get with this program right here. Let's see here. So now we need to add those double French doors. Those will be much easier to add. Let's go ahead and save it whenever we spend time doing stuff like that. House, and again, they do have some doors that I like, but I almost never use the windows. Just they got a double set of French doors. Just throw these guys in here. Make sure they're at the right elevation. And I hardly have a picture, but it looks like a couple of, just a couple of wood doors right there is all that it is.
like wood.
So, and
Or
then,
like oak, probably.
yeah,
Dark oak. If you have any. Dark cherry, maybe?
they have these doors at the very bottom that aren't, they don't have a double door, so you have to, the zero elevation there. Okay, now we
You
have,
center that, or?
it's centered on the gable.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
So you can tell here with this line is the
Yes.
gable, so it's,
Yeah, you had the other highlighted, so.
yeah, it's very, very close there. There we go. We're going to add a window here on the second story. So we raise up the elevation on the window to 10 feet above. And that's probably, my guess is that's around a 2.6 window, maybe 3 foot. It's probably 2.6. But we don't want it to be wider than the door, so let's just shrink it down widthwise. And it's probably around 5 feet tall, and it had a second cross member up in there. You can kind of see that little thing in there. So that's why I do 2 rows but 1 column. Copy and paste. Control C, Control V. Put that window there. It looks like that there's a potential window through the other side over there. There's probably a duplicate window of these over here on that other side. So let's just quickly copy and paste these 2 windows over to here.
Oh.
And then we can put one more set down here, but let's put them all the way down on the ground.
Oh, okay, that's what I want to ask you. So what you do is, so you don't have to move the windows down, you just put it in the elevation of the second story.
Right. Yeah, so the windows, you kind of have to get used to where windows are at. These look like, it's hard to tell. They definitely could be a little bit taller.
Do you have another window? I think in the middle of that. If I'm not mistaken, this right here. What is it? Oh no, this is the image of the. Oh, okay. It looks like it's overlapping, but no, you're right. Yeah,
Of course I am.
Huh?
I said, of course I am. There is, it looks like there's a slight arch on this window, but that's a real, you can create a full 360 window, but to create but you just put this in the middle, and then you just expand it until it hits both of those there. But you really can't create like a half arch. I could come down a little bit and reduce some of the arch, but then you can see the overlap here. The only way to get rid of that overlap is you have the window casing. That helps, but then you lose the effect on the top of the window there. So I'd rather set it something like this.
Looks good. Yeah.
So, and all their windows have the black sunscreens on them. So let's go here to dark tinted. So sometimes it doesn't like to cooperate with me. So I guess we'll just leave them like this. Let's go ahead and put, so there's a double garage door over here. There's a single on the right side and a double on the left. Garage doors, because there's so many garage doors, I actually just bring this down, and I usually go to the one without windows. Windows are not very popular nowadays. So there's a double over here on the left and a single on the right. That's it. If you want to add in things like the gutters, we could. There's two big gutters here. There's a great big light fixture. There's probably one on each side. We could add some of those details. There's a gutter here, and there's a hose bib here. So again, let's go ahead and save it. Design, house, and I've got my groups saved under here in templates. We can ungroup all this stuff here. Let's go to custom shapes. The gutters aren't white, but I think it's fine, so we'll put them over here. There's one gutter here, and then there's one gutter here. The drawback to this gutter is it's too tall for this particular roof, especially at that elevation.
Can you modify the height on custom shapes since you haven't rotated?
You can modify the height, but I can't make it taller like this. I can only move it up and down.
Oh, okay.
Once it's been rotated,
you can do that.
yeah, but we know what the gutter is, and honestly, the clients never ever see that little flare at the bottom that I spent a little bit of time creating, this little flare. So honestly, all I do is I take that two-story one and I just shrink it down. It goes underground, but they'll never see that. Then we'll take the single-story one. And again, it's up like 5 or 10 feet, so it's at 13 now. So yeah, it's up like 8 feet too high. Everything is up 8 feet too high right now. We'll come in here and we'll grab all this stuff in this and bring it down 8 feet. Oh, whoops. There's certain things you can't move up and down. Like decks, you can't move up and down with the rest of with everything else. So you have to do that. You have to only grab certain things when you're moving your templated stuff over. Let's go ahead and save it. And we can also group together and put our,
Cardinal points.
yeah, so it's, whoops. Control B to get the background to come on again. And then I go to K to be able to rotate freely. So, and that's north. And that would be why this grass over here isn't surviving very well. There's lots of big trees, and then the house is casting a shadow over here. So the grass just isn't surviving very well. And on top of it, she's got a lot of these desert type plants. This yucca here. Sago palms can do okay in the shade, but like these yuccas will never really be happy without a lot of sun. Yeah. So let's go back in here. Whoops. Whoops. Can't think straight right now. Control V will make sure my, there we go. Okay, I think that's about it. The only other thing would be if we want to go ahead and add in these giant light fixtures, I'll just turn on all the lights, there's a lot of them, and just try to find something that would be similar as best you can, but there's so many thousands of light fixtures, you're never going to find one that's exact. This one isn't too bad. It's not a hanging one, it kind of comes from the bottom though, so I think all the other light fixtures are up top. So honestly, all we're going to do is just use this one right here. Just click on your arrow here and it'll let you focus and come back over to where you're at. So it's a little bit larger than light fixture 2, so we want to make sure we scale it up, and then let's bring it back down to about where it probably is, somewhere about in this elevation here. Let's go ahead and copy and paste and put one over here as well. Okay, there's also another window over here, but it's not 6 feet tall. It's probably 4 or 5 feet tall, maybe 4 or 6. There we go. Okay, now that we've got the house basically in, now I'll recommend to go in and put in the property line next. Let's save everything. We'll have to make sure we go to walls. And because this is a crazy property line, let's just grab it. Like I said, see here you can kind of see the bottom of the fence line. Just make sure so the sun is reflecting off of the top. So just make sure you stick to one or the other, and we'll just stick to the top here. And usually, since I don't know exactly where the property line ends here, I can do this, and I'm looking here to see where it lines up. Or I can click here and just hit L, and then I know that I'm following the same line here. For the cul-de-sac, just do your best to kind of line it up with a circle radius. So come around here. Now sometimes if I can't quite get this right, what I'll do is, so I unclick and then I'll start back from over here again and kind of go. So this property looks like it really changes directions a number of times.
What do you mean?
Well, see how the fence line, it comes here and then it turns. So it's definitely not a typical property line. And what I try to do then is to make sure that my line is parallel. So you see that my fence isn't where the yellow line is, but I can use that yellow line as a judgment. I'm making sure that the line I'm putting is parallel to this yellow line. Or I could even say, okay, I can see the fence to here, and I could again go just a little bit further there. It looks like my guess though is that the property line, because it's shorter here in the back than what it is, that probably it just barely hugs this garage right here. Now the other drawback is I don't really know. Okay, we really aren't going to be doing a lot of landscaping over here anyway, but figuring out where a property line is fairly important, so you can spend a little bit of time doing it. But you see my line is pretty parallel between, so about the same distance here as it is down here. It could even come back just a little tiny bit, but not too much, because you see that my garage is actually hanging over the property line. Let's see here. So we want a fence height of, I usually do about 2 inches tall. Width-wise, it doesn't really matter. I usually do, there we go. Yeah, the wall is what I'll do. Now I can do my driveway. So I know my driveway, it looks like here that it kind of comes into the house there on the corner. And it probably, once it gets parallel to the street, it probably goes about straight to the street. And then it might do a little flare there. This is hard when you can't see the driveway and I don't have a video, but so you just use your best judgment. So this is why I like to do the property line first. So now I know exactly where my, and I like for it to, yeah. And then I'll just hit D to outline the property line here. And we'll just come pretty much all the way to the property line is about what it looks like it does here. And there's not much of a flare on this end. Whoops. Sometimes it doesn't grab. I could just go through and just do all the deck, even though I bet the deck in the backyard changes some. It looks like here it kind of
circle. Oh, okay. It's all hardscape, huh?
Yep. It's hard to say what this does. Actually, I bet it looks like it kind of, it might do like a little tiny. But now I'm coming up to the pool, so I'm going to go ahead and draw in the pool in the spa. I usually start with the spa. These are those lima bean or kidney shaped spas, so start with the big radius here. And if you hit L here, it'll make sure that your circle blends into the other circle. K to allow you to kind of come in here, and then a little bit tougher on this end when you come from this end.
Yeah, that's,
you want to make sure that you get it.
Yeah, I know you're doing that because you're used to it, but it's a lot harder to tell the shape over the picture. You kind of have an idea how it looks most of the time.
There's only a few shapes of spas. Very rarely are they just amoeba. They're usually like this here is like a kidney bean. You can kind of see the way the shape is. It's not a full round. It kind of bumps in a little bit would be my guess. The picture is blurry, so it's hard to tell exactly, but
yeah, I know you just did that, but I was like, yeah.
When you've done 1,000 of these, you'll get to where it's you know, just second nature. But
awesome.
Again, we aren't even, the homeowner's never even going to see this particular one. This is only for a training video more than anything. So here I use the water as a good judgment. And it looks like it kind of goes under there. There's a little grotto underneath here probably. I can't tell if it's kind of difficult to tell. Just go around the first time and just get close, and we can manipulate it here once we get it in. So that way it looks nice and smooth. There's a little tiny bump out there. So I'm a little off right here. You can kind of see there's a little gap, but you know,
Yeah, just like that instead.
this is the way I do my spas, is I'll come in here and get right on, and then I'll actually go around the backside. This is the way that I do it. And I always like to show my outer line here, just for the coping wise. So anyway, then we'll come in here and let's hide this background image so we can see. So I don't really like the way there's a little tiny flare, little bump right here where the circles don't transition. And if you get it to where these circles literally just nicely flow into each other, you'll have a nice smooth transition in there. So you see how they kind of overlap? There's a little gap right here. So if you just kind of bring this radius here, that really gets it a nice smooth transition between the two. This was the worst one here.
But it's a good example.
Little tiny gap on that one there.
So how do you just click on the angle and it just automatically...
Once you click on the blue line, you can manipulate it. So I could have it go like that. And I just hit Control Z to go back. Control B here. So now we can go back to decks now that we've done our pool. And I'll have my deck go to the edge of the coping. Every designer will do theirs differently in how they like to overdo lines. It looks like to me that there's a little bed right over here. There's something right there, and I don't know that it's this exact shape, but I know there's something there.
Just follow the line.
Yeah, I just hit an outline there. So then you've
What's
got
the hotkey for
this
outline?
is the waterfall. D.
Okay.
And then there's a little planter right here. You see this palm. So, and then it looks like that goes all the way back to these steps. So these are stairs up to a waterfall grotto that then slides down. So then we'll come back. Actually, I was thinking that was one of those palapa things, but that's actually a big bed. So let's do Control Z here.
Detail matters, huh? Yeah, that's pretty cool. And so you mentioned that specifically what you want is you don't like seeing lines just going across each other. You want everything to finish in one line smoothly, so it looks pretty when you look at the 2D plane, right?
Yeah, so when you're looking at the 2D plane on this one, it's nice and clean. Okay. Whereas if I had this line, didn't care, and they were all slightly off a little bit, but all these lines were off, it just gets real cluttered to me, and I like it to where all the lines are on top of each other if you have other lines. So they do have a big waterfall in here. We can see if we can find a waterfall that would quickly fit in there. If not, I'm not even going to worry about that one on this particular video. So I believe it's a rock work here, and then we can see this. Yeah, I don't think it's waterfalls. It's just scroll down here and see. This looks like pretty darn close right here, but we want to make sure that the steps left, so we want to find one that's left. That's right, right, left. For some reason it looks like they only have
Side waterfalls. That's right. No, it's left. That's a slide or like steps for a waterfall? It's a rock slide.
yeah, so that ramp part is here, and then it steps up there.
It's just like the one that was in, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the picture. Which is
Pretty close. So then we could come down here and looks like all the waterfalls they have just don't quite match up to what we have here. They have a big grotto thing, so we'll this is plenty good for this particular project here. And if you notice here, because I make my design so complicated, Pool Studio has a glitch. That's nothing you can, I mean, you can keep trying to work it and figure out what that glitch is. It looks like it's probably something to do with joining right there. They just don't like it when I get as detailed as I do with my projects.
what is that flying up
So my garage door ended up at an elevation way up high. So it's,
for a future home
yeah.
when cars fly.
And that one there ended up 2 feet too short. So here, I'm just going to change all the driveway to brushed concrete. There we go. Now we need to put in a simple walkway to the front yard there. I can't really tell. It looks like, though, if I can see over here, it looks like it might actually Y off to the driveway as well too. So it probably comes here and here. Don't really have a great picture. I have this picture here where, yeah, it looks like there's a pretty big gap in here, so which I wouldn't have seen before. So the driveway really comes pretty far, or the walkway comes pretty far over there. Come down a little bit maybe, and then we'll, okay, and then here I'll turn off my, flares in here, and then let's hit D. And to check the distance, what I'll do sometimes is put a line right here, and then I'll, because walkways are never more than 4 feet wide. And you can check it here to see again if it's still at 4 feet. So I am guessing that there's another little walkway that then goes. Oh, how'd it go? And what I do whenever I'm trying to follow an exact is now I'll go here and I'll click on this center point, and that'll make sure that it's parallel. It's
Go
nice.
back to that, I'm sorry.
So whenever I'm trying to get like an even swale, I want it to be the same distance here. So I go 4 feet. I went 4 feet right here on this, and then I've got my radius. So I did S as a shortcut key, and I go back here to the center point of the other one, and I come in here, and now you don't even have to figure out where you end. If you just come to the center point over here, it'll end it in the best spot for you automatically. And then here I think the walkway kind of flares out a little bit, so we'll there we go. And then I know there is also that's the front deck. Whoops. Okay, now we have 2 trees in the front yard, and for this one here, because we have 0 video or anything, we're just going to quickly place a little tree here. So there's a decent sized bed here, and then there's a pine tree, it looks like, right here. That's an oak of some sort. And then we'll do a bigger bed. It looks like that could be about a 5 foot total across bed. A normal size looking one is around 4. Really, really big is 6. This one looks, it's bigger than normal. It's between 5 and 6 feet there. It looks like too though that it might be a little bit closer to the street.